Now that you've gotten your school year down to a good rhythm and before the holiday busyness starts, this is a perfect time to go ahead and get a start going on your holiday baking. Today I'm going to share with you 3 Christmas treats that can easily be frozen now so that come December you already have some things ready to go. Over on my blog I have more ideas for you as well as tips on how to freeze things and what kind of things can freeze well as far as desserts go. So when you're done with this, be sure to go check out that blog. The link will be down below. I also have it marked over my Pinterest board. If you don't follow me over there, I'd love to have you over there. That is always linked down below as well. So I'm going to put you on the tripod and we will get started baking. First up are Gingersnap cookies. I love Gingersnap cookies, not only for the taste, but because they're not as sweet as other cookies. And so they're kind of a nice balance to overly sweet, all the overly sweet treats that you have. So I have already creamed together my sugar and my butter. The original recipe says to use white sugar, but some of the reviewers on the recipe said brown sugar, and so that's what I have used the past couple years, and I definitely like it. It gives it a little bit of a little more chewy of a texture. So in here, like I said, brown sugar and butter. All the recipes will be linked down below. I'm going to add molasses and 1 egg. And yes, I only have 1 beater. We have mixer issues right now. Our stand mixer won't turn, and one of the beaters broke on this one, and I haven't ordered a new one yet. I need to get that done before baking season really starts for us. In this bowl, I have flour, ginger, cinnamon, salt, and baking soda. So I'm just going to add that in. You can use the mixer or you can hand stir, whichever you prefer. In addition to Gingersnaps, other things that I like to put on my Christmas tray that aren't sweet or less sweet include spiced nuts, which is, you can find different recipes for it. One we use includes a Chinese 5-spice powder, and we really like it. And you can do whatever kind of nuts you want. I also really like to include Chex Mix. It's my favorite thing to eat at during the Christmas season, and I have a video on it. It was my 3 months into my channel, so I haven't gone back to watch the quality, but it's on there. It's on my channel. I will link it down below as well as up in the toolbox or up in the information box. Now you have a couple different ways that you can handle the dough from this point. You could just wrap this up into a big ball in plastic wrap, flatten it out, put foil around it, and pop it in the freezer. That's perfectly fine. You could put it in plastic wrap and roll it into a log and then slice and bake cookies. That's nice. It's just convenient, but it's also nice because if you want to just do a few at a time, if the whole tray is too tempting for your family, you can do it and then make it into the log and cut off enough for 1 or 2 cookies at a time. And when I go to freeze it, you can freeze it on wax paper. If you have a silicone, like the Sil pads, you can do that. I have parchment paper, and I just have parchment paper that's cut for different size trays, depending on what size I want to use, and then I just reuse it until it's not really usable anymore, which I can do several times. The Gingersnaps have been in for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and they are rock hard. So I'll throw these in here, and then I'm going to dip the Oreo Truffles, and then while those cool, I will start the third one, which is my Spritz cookies. I'm just gonna slide these into the freezer, wait a couple hours, and these will be ready to go. And that is a bag of apple pieces that is ready for me to make cider. If you're interested, that video, I do have that video. I'll try to remember to link it down there. If you're going to roll it into a log, I would get it into the log and then just roll the whole log in sugar before you wrap it and freeze it. If you need a recipe that comes together quickly, this next one is the one that you should keep on hand for such occasions. It is also a very sweet one, so to counterbalance the last one. In my mixer, I have 36 Oreos. I just have the regular Oreos and not the double stuff or anything, though you can certainly use the double stuff. You can also use the mint Oreos. We have done that. You're going to pulse these until it's just a fine crumb. And I forgot to mention, these are an Oreo truffle. So now you're going to put in 1 block of cream cheese, 8 ounces, and you want it softened so that it comes together much quicker. I always do this in my food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can certainly crush up the Oreos with a rolling pin or however it is you make breadcrumbs, that kind of thing. And then mix it with a hand mixer or a stand mixer. Now, like the other ones, we are going to use our little handy dandy scoop, put it on a tray, and then pop them in the refrigerator or the freezer. Once they are hard, you are going to dip them in melted chocolate. You can use milk chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate. That's what I'm going to do today. Actually, I'm going to leave part of them blank because my husband likes them with milk chocolate, and dip part of them in white chocolate because that's what I like. These will freeze really well either in like this state or dipped. If you freeze them in this state, just make sure they are rock solid before you put them inside whatever kind of container you're going to do so they don't stick together. I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator and I will be back later to dip them. So next I'm going to do the Oreo Truffles. And now I like to do these in small batches. I am using the Ghirardelli white wafers this time. These are more expensive than like the bark that you can find. I think it tastes a lot better, so if you have it in your budget, get something a little nicer. Some years I've bought those Baker's bar. I think it's the Baker's, and they're like in a cardboard. The Ghirardelli actually at my store was a better price. It was about $2 less a pound to do it this way, so I went with the Ghirardelli. I just use a toothpick to dip this, and I don't have a lot of chocolate in here right now, so it's not completely covering them, but I'm not going to worry about it, honestly. It'll be enough. You can either, if you want it completely covered, you can dip it, you make it deeper, or drizzle over it with a spoon or something. I am putting it back on my silicone thing. If you do not have a silicone one, wax paper is my preference to dip on. And actually I prefer it over silicone. I just already had this out, so I went with it. And if you wanted to dip this into sprinkles or something, this would be the time you would do it. As soon as they're wet, or as soon as while the chocolate's still wet, go ahead and roll it in sprinkles or whatever you want on it. The colored sugars are good, though they don't seem to hold up very well if you are freezing them. Like they kind of melt off and with the condensation. I don't have any issues with sprinkles, but with the sugars I do. Now these are much larger than what than what I like. My family has a sweeter tooth than I do. So if you want smaller ones, I just use like a regular spoon to scoop some out or eyeball it. I like a size about half this big. And I am just going to dip however much I can get out of this chocolate, and then the rest I will save to dip in a milk chocolate. If you have a bunch of these to dip, keep what you're, maybe save out a dozen or so at a time, and keep the rest in the refrigerator or freezer, because they will, they get soft and then they get harder to dip. And the Oreo Truffles are ready to go in the freezer as well. Spritz cookies. In here I have 1 1/8 cup butter and 2 1/4 cups powdered sugar. This is another one that's pretty sweet, though I find that it doesn't taste kind of as sickeningly sweet as like the truffle ones. I'm gonna put 2 egg yolks in here. I'm gonna make waffles tomorrow, so I'll save the egg whites for that. This is a cookie that I never really had except out of like those blue tins that you can get at Christmas time. And my husband asked me to make them one year, and I was pleasantly surprised at how good homemade ones were. So it's become a staple for us. Now the one change I did make is that I'm not a fan of almond extract, so I just use vanilla extract. If you don't know what a Spritz cookie is, they're the shaped ones that you buy a Spritz gun for them, and they have different shape cutters that you put on the end of them. They'll usually come, the Wilson brand will come with some Christmas ones. Mine broke last year, and I think I'm going to order the OXO brand, and that one I think comes with Christmas, and then you can buy Christmas ones. I don't know how well you can tell, but this dough is always, it looks kind of crumbly to me when I'm using the mixer, but then as soon as I switch to something else, it comes together well. Now, the way I usually do this is I roll it, I get out my Spritz, and I make a log out of plastic wrap and keep rolling it until it's thin enough that it will fit perfectly in my Spritz gun, so that I can freeze it and then just pull one out and it's ready to go. But since my gun broke, that's not a possibility. So I'm just going to do my best to estimate. You can see what I mean about it being pretty crumbly, and yet when you squeeze it together, it all comes together just fine. Okay, well that looks pretty close. And if it's not, it thaws pretty quickly, so it'll, I can shape it later. If you don't want to shape it into a log, you could also just go ahead and flatten it out into a disc and then do it that way. And then either way, these thaw pretty quickly on the counter or a few hours in the fridge. I'm just going to pop both of these right into the same bag. Label it, and I will be done. This recipe makes about 3 dozen, and the recipe doubles really well. If you have a stand mixer, just go ahead and double it because it'll just be easier. And then these only take about 5 minutes in the oven to cook, which is another lovely thing about it. So there are 3 Christmas treats that you can go ahead and put in the freezer now while you can take advantage of a little bit of a slower time in the year. Click on the screen right now to go check out the other treats that I've listed, as well as some tips and tricks for doing so. Thanks for watching.